it's time for Power of Prophecy, continuing the legacy of Tex Mars, exposing evil, and promoting Jesus Christ as Savior. Here's your host, Jerry Barrett.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of Power of Prophecy. I'm your host, Jerry Barrett. Honored to have you join me again this week. This week, I want to cover some of the shenanigans that our government, local and federal, are pulling on unsuspecting Americans. I'm not sure if it's apathy or a slow deterioration exponentially as society is more complacent, more lax, more self-absorbed, I guess you could say. But I want to title this program, We're Here from the Government and We're Here to Help. And I've got an anecdote that is apropos to this program. It's a story that I've read numerous times on emails and postings on Facebook, things of that nature. There is a farmer that's overseeing his herd. Suddenly a brand new car appears out of a cloud of dust and starts advancing towards him. The driver, a young man in a suit, leans out the window and asks the farmer, "If I tell you exactly how many cows and calves you have in your herd, will you give me a calf?" The farmer looks at the man, obviously a yuppie, then looks at his peacefully grazing herd and calmly answers, "Sure, why not?" The yuppie parks his car, whips out his computer, connects it to his mobile phone, gets on the internet. He calls up a GPS satellite to get an exact fix on his location. Then he takes that information and feeds it to another satellite, which scans the area in an ultra-high resolution photo. The young man then opens the digital photo on his computer and exports it to an image processing facility in Hamburg, Germany. Within seconds, he receives an email that the image has been processed and the data has been stored. He then accesses a database through an Excel spreadsheet with an email on his phone, and after a few minutes receives a response. Finally, he prints out a full-color 150-page report on his high-tech miniaturized printer. He turns to the farmer and says, "You have exactly 1,586 cows and calves." The farmer says, "That's right. Well, I guess you can take one of my calves." He watches the young man select one of the animals and looks on with amusement as he stuffs it into the trunk of his car. Then the farmer says to the young man, "Hey, if I can tell you exactly what your business is, will you give me back my calf?" The young man thinks about it for a second, and then he says, "Okay, why not?" The farmer says, "You're a politician." The young man goes, "Wow, that's correct. How did you guess that?" The farmer replied, "No guessing required. You showed up here even though nobody called you. You want to get paid for an answer I already know to a question I never asked. You used millions of dollars worth of equipment trying to show me how much smarter than me you are, and you don't know a thing about how working people make a living, or about cows for that matter. This is a herd of sheep. Now give me back my dog." That is the crux of our federal government. And what prompted the title was a speech Ronald Reagan gave. You know, he was quite adept at telling jokes. One of my favorites was the young boy outside the Democratic convention, and he was offering Democrat kittens. He had a box of kittens for sale. Democrat kittens. Get yours now. $10. Well, a reporter saw him, and a couple weeks later, the Republicans had their convention in the same spot. And the reporter sees the kid out there with a box of kittens, and he says, "Get your Republican kittens. Only $10. Get your Republican kittens now." And the reporter says, "Wait a minute. I was here 2 weeks ago, and you were selling Democrat kittens, and now you're selling Republican kittens 2 weeks later." He said, "Yes, sir, these kittens have their eyes open." And that's one of my favorite Reagan jokes, but this one is the one that prompted the title.
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Exactly. I'm here from the government and I'm here to help. But is the government really helping us? Or are they undermining our lifestyle? Well, I got this article off of the New Jersey Spotlight News. Cranberry Township is moving forward with plans to seize part of an historic 175-year-old family farm so they can build affordable housing. No, it doesn't matter to the Cranberry Township that this is an active farm, that there is a lawsuit pending. This township hired a company to appraise 12 acres of the Henry family farm, which is the first step toward condemning the land through eminent domain. The local officials have maintained they need the land to meet state-mandated affordable housing targets. This farm has been in the Henry family since 1850. It's still an active farm, and it is not suited for development. But that doesn't matter to the government. The owner of the farm, Andy Henry, was surprised and disappointed by the township's decision to move forward with this appraisal, instead of trying to work out some type of agreement. Well, now the Trump administration has gotten involved, and they are launching an investigation into potential violations of farmland protection laws. It's not just the feds that are after your property. It's local as well. And I have a list of 5 famous cases where the government abused eminent domain. In the mid-1990s, a widow inherited her husband's commercial building in Las Vegas. He left his property to her so rent from tenants could fund her retirement. The city claimed the area was blighted to justify its use of eminent domain, despite the fact that no one was actually sent to evaluate the area or the building. The woman lost her property because she failed to attend a hearing she knew nothing about. Go to 1999. Chrysler built a new manufacturing plant in Toledo, Ohio. The city borrowed money and granted Chrysler millions for the project, partially because Chrysler's guarantee it would employ nearly 5,000 employees. But it was a fully automated plant, and Chrysler only ended up hiring 2,100 people. But in the process, Toledo declared neighborhoods of 83 well-maintained homes a slum in order to justify eminent domain and relocate the property owners, as well as 16 businesses. The early 2000s, a real estate company in Hurst, Texas, expanded its private mall to over 127 homes. The city used eminent domain to remove the homeowners, even though a handful of them resisted the offers and filed lawsuits. The judge overruled their claims and forced them off their land. I'm going to talk about land in a minute. In 2005, the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, ruled that the city of New London, Connecticut could seize private property for larger private development projects that would theoretically create jobs and increase tax revenue. Suzette Kilo and other property owners sued New London for taking their land, but the court decision emphasized that the Constitution made no mention of literal public use as a requirement for seizing private property. According to the court, the Constitution allows for a much broader interpretation of public purpose. In 2019, the Iowa Supreme Court allowed the Iowa Utilities Board to condemn privately owned farmland and displaced families in order to construct the Dakota Access Pipeline. The court did, however, reject the 2005 Supreme Court decision because the trickle-down effects of economic development were not enough to justify New London's use of eminent domain. The court argued that the pipeline, in contrast, served the public in a clearer and more impactful way than the private office buildings in the New London case. The courts are in on it. But do you own your own land? You know, this nation was founded on real property ownership. That's why the settlers came here. Our founding fathers made it unlawful for government to own land except for 10 square miles of Washington, D.C., and what they needed for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needed buildings. That's it. Have you heard of the land patent? It is the only form of perfect title to land available in the United States. But today, most Americans think they own their land. Unless they have the land patent on the land, they may not. Most people obtain real estate by contract, and then on fulfillment of the contract, they transfer control of land by warranty deed. A warranty deed is merely a color of title, and color of title can mean that which in appearance is title, but which in reality is no title. This according to Houth versus Farrar. Now, it is important to note that when in contest, a warranty deed cannot stand against a land patent. A grant of land made patent is a public law standing on the books of the state and is noticed to every subsequent purchaser under conflicting sale made afterward. So land that has a land patent cannot be taken for debt or taxes, but real estate can be. Land, by definition, is not restricted to the earth's surface, but extends below and above the surface. It is not confined to solids, but may encompass within its bounds such things as gases and liquids. What is real estate? It's a document that lays over the land in color of title. It is not the land itself. It may include with it the right to real property that sits upon the land. Banks and corporations like real estate because they can own it without an act of Congress. Ta-da! Right there is the key. It doesn't take an act of Congress for banks and corporations to own it. Banks and corporations can use the fiction of title to seize property under the color of law. Have you ever heard of land patents? Were you aware of them? I read a book a few years ago. A friend of mine named Harold gave me a copy of an outstanding book. You think you own your land, but you don't. You have no ownership over that piece of property unless you have a land patent. Tex told the story of a piece of land he had bought. He was going to put Bible Home Church on this piece of land. And the government came and sent him a notice saying, you cannot develop on this land because of an endangered species of bird called the golden cheek warbler. They still sent tax statements to Tex that he had to pay for the land. And Tex went to court, and he talked to him, and he said, now, let me get this straight. Have you surveyed my property? Have you actually sat there to see if there are any nests or any sightings of this golden cheek warbler? And they said no, but they are known to inhabit this area. Tex says, well, you haven't spotted them on my property, but you have restricted me from doing any type of development on it. And they said, that's correct, because our studies show that it's possible. And Tex said, okay, let me explain it to you this way. Give me the key to your car. They said, what? He said, give me the key to your car. I'm going to hold on to this key. It's still your car. You're still responsible for paying the taxes on that car. You're still responsible for maintenance on that car, but you're not allowed to drive it. That's the way you're treating my land. Tex was a smart cookie, and he outsmarted him with this tactic. And they eventually relented and said, well, because the court ruled that because they haven't done a survey, they haven't done any bird watching, they have no guarantees that this golden cheek warbler inhabits this piece of land that Tex owns, you cannot restrict him from developing it. And Tex saw a lost leader a mile away. He said, there's no way I'm going to develop anything on this land, because eventually they're going to come in and they're going to say, oh, we spotted one. So Tex put the land on the market and got rid of it so he wouldn't lose his shirt. We're here from the government, and we're here to help, right? This is why I titled it this way. You think you own this property, but I'll tell you, don't pay your property tax. What's going to happen? They're going to put an injunction on you. They're going to kick you off of your property, even though you're still making the mortgage payment. But if you don't pay the property tax, they can seize that property. They can sell it at auction to recoup their losses on property taxes. Think about that. If you don't pay property tax, it can be seized by the government. It can be auctioned off by the government. They could care less if you're homeless. They want that property tax. Man. You know, I've got 5 acres out here in the country. I love it out here. It's beautiful. We have restrictions on night lights, so we have what they call dark skies out here. And it is beautiful at night. You can see the stars. You can see the moon. When it's full moon, it is bright. And it is beautiful to sit on the back porch and look at. And thankfully, the owner of the property, when he built out here, didn't drill a well, because now local governments want to put a meter on these wells. That's right. It's groundwater, but because these municipalities are tapping into the groundwater, that's the aquifers that are buried hundreds and hundreds of feet down, they're drawing down on the aquifer reserves. And the only way they can approve and get kickbacks for these subdivision developments out in this area, and I know they're getting kickbacks. I can't prove it, but I know it in my heart. They want to put meters on your well. They want to limit how much water you pull out of that well. This is going to impact ranchers. It's going to impact farmers that may irrigate in the dog days of summer. But this owner of this property that Leslie and I bought decided he was going to go with rainwater collection. I have 12,500 gallon tank that we collect off of our roof. It goes through what's called an eliminator, where all the sludge and the bird poop and everything floats to the bottom and settles. And the water comes out of the top and goes into my tank. Then when I use water in the house, it comes through a couple filters to get all the impurities out. And then it goes through a UV light to kill any bacteria before it comes in the house. It is the best drinking water I've ever had. I don't buy bottled water because I have got the perfect water. We wash our clothes, we take our showers. The pH balance is perfect. This is God's water. And I was worried when we moved in thinking, what happens if we run out of water? Well, I found a supplier that will truck 2,000 gallons if I run out. We've been out here almost 15 years. We've run out of water, almost run out of water 4 times. I've had to buy water 4 times. There are people in Austin that use 25,000 gallons of water a month for their estates. Yeah, these are rich people, and they're paying a big water bill. 25,000 gallons a month. My wife and I live on 12,500 gallons all year. And when we get rain, it fills it back up. That means I get to take a little longer hot shower in the winter. It's a beautiful thing. But there are some states that have outlawed rainwater collection. Yes, think about that. You cannot gather and collect rainwater that falls from the heavens for your use. These states include Utah, Washington, and Colorado. They have had laws on the books for a very long time that prohibits individuals from collecting rainwater on their own property. Why? Well, the lawmakers felt that the rain belongs to somebody else, not you. It is illegal in Utah to divert rainwater without a valid water right. Mark Miller of Mark Miller Toyota found this out the hard way. He constructed a large rainwater collection system at his new car dealership, and he was going to use this water to wash the new cars. If you think about it, that's genius. Instead of using city water that's been treated, why not use rainwater and be a conservationist? That makes perfect sense, but not to the people in positions of power. Mr. Miller found out later that this was actually an unlawful diversion of rainwater. Now, Salt Lake officials worked out a compromise with Mr. Miller, and they permit him to use their rainwater. The fact that individuals like Mr. Miller don't own the actual rainwater that falls on their property is a true indicator of what little freedom we have left here in the United States. That is ludicrous. Now, the rainwater collection restrictions in Colorado and Washington vary among different areas of the states, and some legislators have actually passed some laws to help ease these restrictions. In Colorado, 2 new laws were recently passed that exempt certain small-scale rainwater collection systems, like the kind people might install on their homes. So, if my house was in Colorado, I would have been breaking the law. The previous owner probably would not have been able to set this rainwater collection system up. But Douglas County, Colorado conducted a study on how rainwater collection affects aquifer and groundwater supplies. The study revealed that letting people collect rainwater on their property actually reduces the demand from water facilities and improves conservation. This ain't rocket science. Using rainwater instead of tap water is a smart and useful way to conserve this valuable resource. Also in this study, it was revealed that only about 3% of Douglas County's precipitation ended up in the streams and rivers that are supposedly being robbed by rainwater collectors. 3%. The rest of it evaporates or goes into the ground, and plants use it. Oh no, maybe we should outlaw plants. 3% goes into the streams and the rivers. What is this really about? It's about control. It always is. Good for me, not for thee. I know better than you. I am going to make laws to keep you from doing stupid stuff like collecting rainwater. As long as people remain uninformed about these important issues, local and federal government officials are going to continue to chip away at our freedoms that we have enjoyed. We have been, basically, reprogrammed to think we need permission from the government to exercise the inalienable rights given to us by God. If I remember history correctly, I thought the government derived its power from us. I thought our republic was designed so the government would serve the people, protect and uphold our freedoms and our liberties. But not today. Today, people believe they get their rights from the government and not the other way around. And those people will always be enslaved to the government. The same argument that's being used to restrict rainwater collection could be used to declare you have no right to the air you breathe. Think about that. The government could declare the air to be theirs, not yours. They could charge you an air tax. They could charge you an air royalty. They could demand that you pay for every breath you take. That's where this could lead to. Preposterous? Yes. Possible? Yes. If they're willing to prohibit you from collecting rainwater, or they want to tax you for rainwater collection, or if they want to put a meter on your water well, who's to say they're not going to charge you for every breath you take? The government already claims to own your land and house. What happens if you don't pay your property tax? How long do you think you will own it? Long enough for them to seize it, put it up to auction. That's what I'm saying. That statement right there proves exactly who really owns your land. It's not you. It's the government. Let's extrapolate this. Who owns your body? According to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, U.S. corporations and universities already own 20% of your genetic code. Your own body is partially the property of someone else. If they own your land, if they own your water, if they own your body, how long before they claim to own your air, your mind, and your soul? Goodness, people, we have to stand up against this tyranny. If not, it's going to creep upon us, and it's going to enslave us to a world controlled by corporate government collusion. Everything of value will be owned by these powerful entities. Is that dire enough? Is it going to wake people up? I hope so. I hope you will spread this program to all your friends, your family, your neighbors. We need to get off our duff and start looking into these things. Be active with your local government. Don't let them just run roughshod over us. If we don't stand for something, we'll fall for everything. It is imperative. It is so imperative that we deny these tyrants to gain ultimate control and enslave us all. That's going to take care of the first half. I want to thank you for tuning in and giving me a little bit of your time. We have to take a brief pause, and when I come back, I'm going to dive right back in. We're from the government, and we're here to help. Stay with us, won't you? I'll be right back. Hello, friends. Jerry Barrett back with you again. You know, I was talking about rainwater collection, the power of water, and I couldn't help but think about Texas' outstanding documentary entitled The Coming Great Thirst that astonishing day just ahead when water shall be no more. Now, text put this out back in the early 2000s, but it is still relevant to today. There is a coming great thirst which will soon envelop the entire world. Almost overnight, water shall become the earth's most precious and most scarce resource. Men's tongues shall become scorched with thirst. Entire industries that use water in their processes will grind to a halt. Green things everywhere will quickly become hot, parched, and brown and wither away. Oceans and waterways will become poisoned and be as thick as blood, filled with the rotting and stinking residue of dead fish and dead sea creatures. Are all of these things too fantastic, too difficult to believe? Then hold your breath, because every frightening event described here is about to occur. In fact, the actions of the hidden Illuminati elite, its United Nations and government, will guarantee it. But most important, Bible prophecy says it will happen. In this almost heart-stopping special report, Tex Mars gives an anointed message. He pictures a bleak era and a world desperate for water and dying of thirst, exactly as it shall be in a few short years. He explains how and why this shall occur. The coming great thirst will bring with it a tremendous toll of death and turbulence. Entire societies will be disrupted. Cities will explode with violence. Men and women will suddenly be thrown out of work, and hunger will overtake humanity as crops fail. Men will curse God for the horrors that have come upon them, and will kill their neighbors for a mere drop of moisture. All this will occur on that astonishing day when water shall be no more. Some of the developments that Tex talks about in this video: World Goodwill, a major New Age globalist organization, just published a stunning special report entitled By the Grace of Water. What spiritual significance does water have to the world's occult elite? Why this emphasis on water? In 1998, the United Nations declared the International Year of the Oceans. Is it a coincidence that 1998 is also 66666? Recognized by Satanists, Kabbalists, Gnostics, and witches alike as the great year of dark occult power and infernal majesty? Why is the elitist-controlled environmental movement insanely pushing its wetlands acts, attempting to drive people off the lands adjacent to all waterways everywhere? Is the military secretly employing weather warfare, including HAARP, bringing massive flooding and driving people off the land? Why did Jesus describe himself as living waters? What is the significance of the water in Christian baptism? What is the strange and shocking significance of the holy water used in Catholic rites and in their churches? Why does Bible prophecy, look at Revelation 13:1, warn of the hideous beast that in the end time rises up out of the sea? Is there a connection of this prophecy with the Babylonian mystery religion? Does the Bible prophesy that in the last days men will suffer and die of thirst, drinking their poisoned water in astonishment? This and so much more is covered in this powerful 60-minute documentary, available on DVD. We're only asking $20. Please add $6 shipping and handling. That will make your total for Coming Great Thirst $26. You can order your copy by phoning us toll-free in the United States and Canada at 1-800-234-9673. If you care to phone us on our regular line, that number is 512-263-9780. We're in the office Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. If you get our voicemail, please leave your name, number, and a brief message. We will call you back as quickly as we can. If you care to order your copy of Coming Great Thirst at our secure shopping cart, Just go online to powerofprophecy.com. There's an ad for the documentary right there on the main page. Click on it, put in your name, your address, your charge card, select your shipping method, hit submit, we'll get it and get it coming to you. If you care to send in a check, money order, or cash, please make your check or money order payable to Power of Prophecy, and you can mail it to us here at 4819 R.O. Drive, Suite 102, Spicewood, Texas, 78669. Okay, now let's return to our regular program. Today we're talking about we're from the government and we're here to help. Now I talked about this, it's been a while, during the Biden regime, and I bring it back up because recently President Donald Trump fired the woman in charge of the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. It was a long time coming. It was long overdue. Because if you remember, back in early 2024, it started making the news that the Labor Department, where the labor statistics were released, had to revise job numbers. Yeah, Joe and Kamala were cooking the books. They wanted the American people to believe that there were jobs being created because he didn't want to keep tanking the economy, his regime anyway. I don't think Joe knew pretty much anything that was going on by early 2024. I think his elevator quit going to the top floor long before the election was stolen, but it progressively got worse. His mental decline was evident, but they lied to us, the American people, to prop up their failing economy. Between April 2023 and March 2024, the payroll growth issued by the Bureau of Labor Statistics was revised downward. Not once. I've got the chart. I'm going to read you some numbers. There were 68,000 fewer jobs per month. This downward revision was the largest in 15 years. You remember how bad the economy was in 2008 under Obama? That's the last time these numbers were revised this far down. All jobs recovered after the COVID scamdemic during the Biden-Harris regime went to foreign-born workers. This includes illegal aliens. This is from the Center for Immigration Studies. Employment growth has gone to the foreign-born. 183,000 fewer U.S.-born Americans are working than in 2019, before COVID. The number of immigrants, legal and illegal, working is up 2.9 million over 2019. They cooked the books to keep the stock market from totally crashing, to ticking off the time bomb that is our economy. January 2023, I told you I had the table right in front of me. There was a revision downward of 45,000 jobs. February 2023, how about 63,000 revised downward? March of 2023, only 19,000. But we ticked back up in April, 36,000 downward revision. It got worse in May, down to 58,000. They had to reduce the number of jobs. But here's the peak, June of 2023. The initial revision was 209,000 jobs created out of thin air. After they revised it downward, it was 185,000. But they bottomed out at 105,000 after the second revision. That is a 104,000 deduction from what the Bureau of Labor Statistics said was working individuals. Same thing happened in September 2023. It was down 74,000. So they would send out a report with this number of jobs created. And we don't know how many were government jobs that got created, but they pulled these numbers out of thin air, kind of like 6 million. If you know, you know. And then they would actually have to revise these job numbers, and invariably every month from January 2023 to November of 2023 was downward. Now, I don't have a report that shows what happened in December 2023, but the government lied to you. We're here from the government and we're here to help, right? Wrong answer. But the corruption's not limited to Biden. It's not limited to Obama. There was W, there was HW, and there was Slick Willie. I think he's the cream of the crop for usurping our rights to fatten his pocketbook. In January of 2018, the former Senate president of Haiti, his name is Bernard Sansaric, he accused Bill and Hillary of stealing money from Haiti. You remember there was the devastating earthquakes and money poured into the Clinton Foundation. Well, Mr. Sansaric in January of 2018 urged President Trump during his first term to investigate the financial affairs of the Clinton Foundation. Mr. Sansaric detailed how Bill Clinton tried to bribe him, promising he would make him the richest man in Haiti if he used his position as Senate President to assist the Clintons in looting the island of its wealth. Mr. Sansaric explained, quote, "In February of 1994, I became President of the Senate, and I had to deal with the Clinton invasion of Haiti. I was working with American intelligence at the time. Clinton wanted to buy me out. I was hitting very hard on several fronts. To try to appease me, he sent Bill Richardson, who was a congressman at that time. I spent 4 hours with Mr. Richardson. A week later, the American embassy called to tell me that President Clinton had sent a messenger for me. He did not give me his name." Close quote. Well, Mr. Sansaric did refuse the offer. A week after he refused to do Clinton's bidding, he was informed his American visa was revoked. With Mr. Sansaric isolated to Haiti, the Clinton-supporting media stifled his voice. But the truth always has a way of coming out. I've got some audio clips I want to share with you. The first is Tom Cotton talking about the Clinton Foundation.
The more we learn about the Clinton Foundation's operations, whether it's from the book Clinton Cash or Brett Baer's reporting or the Wall Street Journal's reporting, the more it becomes clear that the Clinton Foundation may be the world's largest money laundering and influence peddling operation. And in fact, with two investigations swirling around Hillary Clinton, both the email investigation and the Clinton Foundation investigation, I think it may become clear that those are really the same controversy. One reason why Hillary Clinton probably wanted to set up a private email server is so she could advance her pay-to-play agenda at the State Department for Clinton Foundation donors, giving perks and benefits to dictators and shady oligarchs all around the world.
Peter Schweitzer has done some amazing investigative work, written a number of really powerful books. We offer one of Mr. Schweitzer's books here at the ministry. And he was on a radio program talking about how the Clintons robbed Haiti. Listen to this.
Remember, the State Department, Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, was in charge of the Reconstruction dollars. USAID was under her purview. Emails that came out where contractors and people who wanted deals in Haiti would email and talk to people, and Hillary Clinton's aides would contact Hillary Clinton and say, this person is an FOB, friend of Bill. Because many of the people that ended up getting Haitian contracts were people that were paying Bill Clinton for these large speeches, sometimes of $500,000, and they were also making large donations, sometimes 7-8-figure donations to the Clinton Foundation, which of course Bill Clinton was drawing a lot of benefit from too. So again, it's money laundering. That's what they're engaging in. It's intentional. And the fact that very little trickled down to Haiti is a reflection of the fact that poor Haitians couldn't put money in the Clintons' pockets. That's why they never got paid.
Now, Peter Schweitzer mentioned USAID. Is it any wonder that Trump wanted that faux agency, that fake agency that spent taxpayer funds on garbage all around the world, shut down? This is another reason why U.S. aid needed to go. The Clintons utilized it for their benefit. Now, Brooke Singman from Fox News was, I think, one of the first to break Clinton Foundation story. Here's her report on Fox News.
Yeah, Brian, that's right. A top prosecutor on special counsel Jack Smith's team actually discouraged the FBI from investigating the Clinton Foundation back in 2016. So this is Ray Holzer we are talking about, who at the time was the chief of the Justice Department's Public Integrity Section. Now, he was identified as an official who declined prosecution of the Clinton Foundation. That information was buried in former special counsel John Durham's report. So you'll remember John Durham was investigating why Trump-Russia probe was ever opened. So Durham found that back in early 2016, 3 FBI field offices, that was Washington, New York, and Little Rock, all had already opened investigations into the Clinton Foundation. But during a meeting at the Justice Department in February 2016, Holzer told investigators that he felt the evidence to expand those probes was insignificant. But Fox News has learned that multiple suspicious activity reports, or SARs, had actually been filed against the Clinton Foundation related to hundreds of thousands of dollars in foreign transactions. Now, those transactions took place between 2012 and 2014, and you'll remember Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State for a portion of that time period. So SARs are in part what predicated the federal criminal investigation into Hunter Biden, and banks have a duty to file them, but it's up to the Justice Department to determine if there is any criminality. But despite those SARs filings, Holzer said the evidence was, quote, de minimis at best. Holzer, though, told Durham that he, quote, made it clear that his decision was not binding on those various U.S. attorneys' offices or FBI field offices who were seeking to further those probes. Now, these revelations come as some say Jack Smith's case and attempted prosecution of former President Trump is political.
It's all a smoke show. Money laundering, information laundering. I mean, the Clintons took in tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars from donors because they were supposed to be taking care of Haiti after that devastating earthquake. I mean, the earthquake leveled almost everything in Haiti. But you heard earlier that, 2% got to Haiti through the Clinton Foundation? Well, what was done in Haiti? Here's a man from Haiti with that answer.
The Haitian people has not seen not even 2% of that money. 2%. Nothing was done in Haiti.
Nothing was done in Haiti. Unbelievable. We're from the government, and we're here to help. We're going to put our foundation together, and we're going to send all this aid. We're going to rebuild Haiti. Haiti is a third world dung heap. It's got civil war after civil war. All the gang leaders are fighting over turf. The government is pretty much non-existent in Haiti. If you got the most guns, I guess you run the government in Haiti. But Slick Willie and Hillary, and got to include Chelsea, they're sitting on a bag of cash. They were dead broke, and they are sitting over $200 million or more. Do the research. You'll find out. They are loaded. How? How did that happen? Going from dead broke to being a multi-millionaire. Influence peddling. Pay to play. And I've talked about this before. If you've got an Alexa or one of those Google Dots, the Alexa, I guess, is from Amazon. This little personal assistants, you can say something, they're always listening. And you want to play music, they'll turn on and play music for you. But they're always listening. And I've reported on this before. But it is becoming more and more apparent. Leslie and I were talking about something the other day, and I got on the internet, and lo and behold, what we had talked about was a targeted ad on one of the websites I went to. Does that freak you out? Because it sure does me. But it goes beyond that. This was in Politico. It's called The Government Really Is Spying on You, and It's Legal, written by Steve Overly. This was written back in 2024. But the government is buying up reams of consumer data. This is information that is gathered from cell phones, social media profiles, internet ad exchanges, and other open sources, and deploying it for clandestine purposes like law enforcement and national security, here in America and abroad. The places that you go, the websites you visit, the opinions you post are all collected and sold legally to federal agencies. There is a book called Means of Control, written by Byron Tau, T-A-U. This book details everything the author learned of an opaque network of government contractors peddling troves of data, a legal but shadowy use of American citizens' information, which troubles even some of the officials involved. Yes, they're buying this data. The government figured out that they could buy this geolocation data of cell phones. Millions, maybe billions of cell phones. This data is collected through apps or online advertisers, and it can be used as part of a surveillance program. The Pentagon was experimenting with this. It eventually became a full-fledged program within the Department of Defense. It has also expanded into the Department of Homeland Security. Are you feeling warm and fuzzy yet? I know I am. We know about Google. We know about Facebook. They have collected this data. But there are companies, little tiny obscure brokers of information that face little public pressure. They're not in the limelight. They have almost no direct consumer relationship, but they are gathering this data to sell to advertisers and the federal government. Now, these sellers of data have intimated that this data is anonymous. They've taken away names, addresses that could reveal who owns the phone. But if the phone is at the same location every night, all you have to do is look up on a real estate listing who owns this piece of property where this phone is pinging every night, and they've got your name, they've got your address, they know who you are. Think about that. Law enforcement is using this data. Public safety, military, intelligence agencies, they are using this data. Some of it's been used to round up illegal immigrants. Some has been used to detect tunnels at the border. Some has been used in manhunts or identifying specific people in the vicinity of crimes or known criminal activity. In one instance, there was an Arizona man arrested because law enforcement saw there were phones moving between the restaurant he owned in America. They would go across the border to the Mexico side. They deduced that there was a tunnel, an underground tunnel, from his restaurant to Mexico. They waited. Then they had a pretense to pull the car over that this guy was driving, found drugs in his possession. They were able to get a search warrant for his restaurant, and they discovered that he was moving drugs through this tunnel. But think about this. If you have a newer car, you have a sensor that sends wireless data to your car's computer that tells you your tire pressure. I know you know this data is gathered. They know who owns that car. They can track your movement across the country. You know, Buttigieg wanted to put in a mileage tax. This is one way they can track and see how many miles you put on your vehicle each day, and they can tax you for it. But wait, there's more. There is an agency within the Department of Justice. It's called the Community Relations Service. Now, Trump is trying to get rid of it, and we'll see if he's successful. But according to their information, the Community Relations Service, or CRS, is tasked with preventing and resolving racial and ethnic tension, conflicts, and civil disorders. It was created back in 1960 by John F. Kennedy. He noted that there was an issue. He wanted federal government to pay for experts to identify tensions before they would reach critical mass. But is it working? Well, there were two teenagers laughing as they filmed their vehicle ramming a cyclist, an elderly man in Nevada. He was 64 years old. He was a retired police officer. His name was Andreas Probst. One of the perpetrators was black, one was Hispanic. The victim was white. What would happen if the races were reversed? What if it was two white kids and they ran over a Hispanic or a black man? Oh, there would be hell to pay, wouldn't there? Wall-to-wall coverage on CNN. This story barely got a lead in local news. Control media didn't spread this information. But if it was reversed, the media would say the cyclist was lynched. Think about that. It would have indicted all of white Americans as so-called racists. But this response follows a curious and disturbing pattern for whites reacting to the deaths of their loved ones at the hands of non-whites. Now, we have been told to forgive one's trespasses. It's a laudable act of Christian morality. But forgiveness doesn't cancel out the objective requirements of justice. Back in 2023, Jennifer Angel, a bakery owner, a supporter of Black Lives Matter, was killed after fighting with black robbers. Her family demanded the men responsible for her death not to face jail time. October of 22, two blacks shot Elijah DeWitt, a high school football player in Georgia. It was during a botched robbery. His family felt it was important to deliver a message to the community that hate has no home here. A Somali man threw a 5-year-old, a white child, off of the 3rd level at the Mall of America in 2019. The boy miraculously survived. The Somali man received a lengthy jail sentence. The family wanted the world to know that it harbored no hate over the horrific act. We've got George Floyd. His relatives pushed for political change to favor their own interest. They loudly and publicly sought for what they believed was justice and spent very little time talking about forgiveness. Why do so many whites react this way? Is it because of the Community Relations Service and they're designing public responses for the aggrieved white family members? No wonder Donald Trump wants to get rid of it. He tried the first term, and Merrick Garland reestablished the funding for that department. But faith in our government is dwindling. The corruption at the highest levels of power is no longer being concealed from us. They are trying to restrict our freedom of speech. Think about the scamdemic. Misinformation, disinformation, censoring. Think about the Second Amendment. They're trying to get rid of guns. They want them off the street. Gun control, gun control. Our founding fathers saw this. In order to have free speech, you have to have a way to defend your right, your inalienable right to this free speech. That's why we have the Second Amendment. Our government is overstepping its bounds, and until we as a nation rebuke their abuse of power, until we stand up and fight for our rights, it's not going to get any better. But we have hope. We can come together as a country. I keep saying it, God is no respecter of persons. But we can all come together. We can call out the wicked. We can call out the evildoers. We can expose them for what they are, whether they're in Congress, the Supreme Court, or the White House. They're not immune from exposure. And we need to reclaim what our founding fathers gave us. Our inalienable rights, our pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I want to thank you for tuning in and giving me an hour of your time. I greatly appreciate it. And as always, I pray you will tune in again next week at this same time. Tune in and discover the power of prophecy.